What's up, traders? Zach here from the Trading Network, and today we are here to discuss yet another high probability market profile strategy that has been helping professional traders catch early morning and power hour breakouts for decades. It is called the initial balance extension, or the IBX as I like to call it, and when traded with discipline and confirmation, it can lead to exceptionally high probability directional moves, especially in NQ, ES, and other futures markets that are highly liquid. So here's the basic idea. The initial balance is the opening 1 hour in New York session. It takes place from 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and that first hour of regular trading hours activity sets the tone for the day. When price extends beyond that range and confirms acceptance with something like TPO confirmation or candlestick confirmation, there is a strong chance that we get continuation. Backtest and anecdotal data from Market Delta, Shadow Trader, and Futures.io show that when all parameters are met, initial balance extensions can result in directional follow-through about 70 to 80% of the time. That is a very powerful edge if you know how to read it. If you guys watched my value area video, the 80% value area rule video, you can simply think about how high probability both of these two strategies are. And if you have the patience and discipline and wherewithal to simply wait for those two strategies to present themselves, either an initial balance extension or the value area rotation rule, you have a proven statistically backed edge that is between 70 and 80% that has data to back that up for decades. I want you guys to think about that for a moment. The issue that traders have gaining consistent profitability is not within the edge. It is within your mind. So before we dive into the charts here, I want to just point something out that you guys might have already noticed. This is not the software that I have been using for the last 5+ years making videos on the Trading Network. I have officially made the switch to Sierra charts from NinjaTrader, and that is because I have taken on a new trading venture that is calling for a larger account size and stronger data feeds, and NinjaTrader could not offer really support for a larger account size that we needed, or the Denali data feed. So this is why I'm switching to Sierra chart. I have made the switch, and one of the other very big reasons that I have made the switch as well is the market profile on Sierra chart is arguably the best built-in market profile, or the best market profile in general out of any trading software. Window Trader is excellent. That's what Jim Dalton, the author of Markets and Profile and Mind Over Markets, uses and teaches on, but Window Trader is not an execution software. It is simply an analysis platform. Sierra chart, however, does both. It allows you to place trades on the platform and do the analysis with a very, very powerful market profile. So you guys can see here, it's really similar to the profile that I've been using on NinjaTrader, except it just has extra bells and whistles. So now in this profile that I am using, I have the ability to split very easily and quickly split these profiles so I can see individually all of the periods in the profile. Another thing that is really cool that I like a lot is that this gives us the ability to mark the open and close of every single period, right? So the open of each period is notated by the green letter, and the close of each period is notated by the yellow letter. So that is very helpful as well. And then we have a bit more detail and granularity on the volume profile side of things, where I can quite literally zoom in and see all of the contracts traded at every single TPO level on this chart, which is very, very powerful information if you know how to use it. And I'm going to show you guys exactly how I am using this tool, and using especially the split letters to take advantage of things like the IBX setup and the 80% value area rule that much easier and quicker with these visual cues. All right, so we're gonna go over at least a couple examples in this video. First example being today. Today was June 30th, and you'll see, I'll just scroll back in this chart and you can see how often this setup will truly work, whether it's, you know, an early morning IBX or a power hour IBX like today. So today we got the power hour extension, right? So we got the break of initial balance in L period. So, you know, basically like around 1:30 my time, 3:30 Eastern time, 3:20, something like that, right? Right around here, okay? And you can see that price maintained. Here's the initial balance high. I'll zoom in here. So on the market profile, you can see that on Sierra chart, we've got the initial balance created by this vertical green bar, right? So the initial balance is from 22,793 to 22,877. Once again, 22,793 to 22,877, right? So like up here, right around here, right? This is the highest price traded, and it was right on the open, okay? So we opened up, here was our opening range, right? 877 down to 849. So we opened here. This is where we opened in A period right at the top. And then we immediately sold off, and we just chopped around for essentially the entire day up until about 3 o'clock, 3:20 Eastern time. All right. So around 3:20 Eastern time is when we got the initial balance extension. I'm going to zoom in on the candlestick chart here so you guys can see. And you can also see this in L period here on the market profile to the right. This is when we broke above A period. This is when we broke the initial balance extension, right? So for those of you guys that, you know, want to use the candlestick chart, this is when you really see the power of the market profile in combination with the candlestick chart, all right? Here we have our first actual break of the initial balance all day. Right here at, what time is this? At 3:21 Eastern time, okay? We break the initial balance, we come down and we put in a higher low, and even very subtle, look at this, a little bit of divergence here, okay? Right here at this level, that is the wrong drawing tool. I'm still getting used to this software. Bear with me. There we go. Boom. Div, there, and there. So we have bullish divergence, right? Right below the initial balance, we are using an area that was resistance all day. Resistance, 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 resistance. Couldn't even get back up there. And then even just, you know, 10 minutes before that, resistance, right? Bearish divergence, boom, sent down, and then we broke these prior swing highs, and we finally changed behavior. We moved above the initial balance for the first time in the entire session, and then put in bullish divergence at a very, I mean, is this clear? Is this clear enough, ladies and gents? Right there, right? Resistance, resistance, comes down, tests that prior swing high perfectly. This is the 377 tick chart, by the way. There's a reason that I have been using this as my entry trigger for years. It is because it has no noise. There is no noise in tick or trade related charts. Actually, in Sierra charts, it's referred to as the trade-based chart, number of trades. So that's what a tick chart is. There are 377 trades every bar, and it shows us beautiful price structure. And if that doesn't give you an example, I do not know what will. So this right here, you can use the market profile in combination with your candlestick chart, with the trading network tools, regardless of whether you're using Sierra chart, whether you're using NinjaTrader, whether you're using TradingView, it all works, my friends. And this is a beautiful example of how it works on a late in the day breakout. Yes, this isn't a massive trend following breakout that you're going to get an incredible extension on and get hundreds of points. No, that's not the goal here. This is a late in the day move and a change in behavior late in the day that you can capitalize on. If you are at the charts, you can take advantage of a setup like this. This setup, if you get in on the local low, you know, let me zoom in here, right? Let's look at the exact entry criteria. So if we're using the trading network system and we're entering on the local low, where are we entering, ladies and gents? We're entering right here because this candle closes above the top of this. That confirms the divergence. You can see right here, we've got the stochastics, divergent. We've got the candlestick structure that confirms that. Price is using a prior resistance level as support, confirming that. Then you have a higher low inside of the opportunity zone. If you don't want to take it right there off the divergence, guess what? You have another entry opportunity right here using the trading network system, using the opportunity zone. And where is our entry? This candle right here closes above the top of this one, and that is your entry. And you can put a stop loss here. You can put a stop loss below the low of the divergence. The world is your oyster. You could technically even put a stop loss right below the initial balance high. Look at that. Right below the IB high. If you get in on the break, on the confirmation of the change in behavior, your entry can be right here at 22,884 and your stop loss can be at 22,875, and you can risk 10 points to make a lot more than that, right? And once again, we didn't get a huge move, but this is a move that you can capitalize on time and time again, okay? And you can see it here on the market profile. You can wait for the break of the initial balance. You can look for good candlestick confirmation. I would highly suggest not just aping into a trade when the initial balance is broken. You want multiple either candlestick closures above it, or you want some nice change in behavior, some structure like this right below it, right? So this gets a bunch of people short here and then just rips their stops to the upside. So you need confirmation, right? Don't just, like I said, don't ape into the trade, but you can be quick with it, right? Watch for a good setup, look for some divergence, look for a higher low, look for good candlestick structure, look for price in the opportunity zone, look for 2 TPO prints above the initial balance high, right? So if we're looking at the TPO prints, we have L period prints here, and then it prints here. So as soon as this happens, right, basically as soon as this price action happens right here, that's L period printing 2 TPOs above the initial balance high, and that is your signal. You can choose to put your stop loss here. You can choose to put your stop loss there. And you know if price breaks back down into the initial balance, that trade is invalid and you don't want it anymore anyways. All right, so here's example number 2. We are looking at the prior New York trading hour session. So we just looked at today, Monday, June 30th, and now we are looking at last Friday, June 27th. Okay, so we got the initial balance extension at the end of the day, or towards the end of the day last Friday as well. So I just want to drive home the idea of how often this happens and how, relatively simple it is to catch it and take advantage of it. So check this out. I'm going to split the profile. All right, you can see that. I'll just zoom out here a little bit so you can see the 377 tick chart, right? So, we had a tight range, essentially. We were ranging between 827 and 686 all day. And that was our initial balance, right? So this is our initial balance high up here at 825, right? Right there. So this was our range for the entire day until 2:20 p.m. on Friday, okay? So at right around 2:28 p.m. on Friday, we broke the initial balance for the very first time in J period. We broke below 22,683, okay? And I hope you guys are seeing the pattern here. We came back up to retest the opportunity zone after we had broken it, and we got a really, really nice entry once again, offering up a high probability trade setup using the initial balance extension. Again, these are not huge moves, especially late in the day. Late in the day, they're going to be shorter moves, but I will show you guys an example where we got the IBX early in the day and we got a much larger sustained trending move. But, I'm not going to complain at a 70 to 80% chance to take advantage of, I don't know, what is that? 50 points, right? That is amazing opportunity. I don't often trade the end of the day, but if I'm around and price is maintained inside the initial balance, I'm watching for that IBX so I can take advantage of a high probability setup if I'm at the charts at the end of the day. So you can see here, we broke the initial balance in J period. We started to move down. We closed J period right here, open K, and then just continued to sell off until we put in lows, put in bullish divergence, and then higher lows, and then it was time to go back into the initial balance, right? So subsequently, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but if you take the IBX and then you see price go back into the initial balance, there's likely a trade, because it's a mean reversion trade, back in the other end. So this is an extension trade where price is balanced and we are moving out of balance, and the return to the mean is once you see price put in lows in this case and then move back into the IB, that is the mean reversion. You can see we continue that mean reversion into the next day there. All right. So let's go into the next setup, but I just want you guys to understand that this happens often and it is very high probability. All right, here is the last example for the video, my friends. So you can see here that we have a very tight opening range. Our opening range was basically between 22,565 and 22,523. So like a 40-point opening range, right? So this was our opening 1-minute range. We broke the 1-minute range. We created the initial balance, and our initial balance was created between 22,472 right here, right? Basically right around pivot point. And then our high of the IB was up here at 22,577, just a little bit above the opening range high, okay? So we got the IBX much earlier in this session, and you can see that it was much more sustained, right? So there's a pattern here that I would suggest you guys try to pay attention to. If you're looking for an early morning IBX, if the initial balance gets created and then we escape that IB early, look for a higher probability of extension, okay? If we have an IBX late in the day during power hour, take your profit and get out and be grateful that you were able to capitalize on a 70 to 80% setup late in the day during power hour. Not financial advice, but advice as a trader who has not made the right decisions taking that play over and over again, okay? So once again, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to split the profile here. You can see we've got our A period, our B period, which tops out the initial balance, and then we almost immediately get that initial balance extension, right? Very, very similar structure to the first example that we looked at, where we broke the initial balance initially, and then we came back down and we put in some good structure, some higher lows, maybe even some bullish divergence, let's see, around or right below the initial balance high, okay? So I don't see, yeah, there's some bullish divergence here, maybe some subtle divergence there. But, you know, perhaps you take this and you get stopped out and you have to re-enter, right? So this is a situation where this is a setup that's worth trying multiple times, right? And it's not a perfect science, but you can see the structure is similar, where price creates a resistance, price moves above that resistance level, comes back down to retest that resistance, and then gets that follow through. And it would make sense that it takes a little bit longer to get that actual breakout because it's building up more liquidity for an actual sustained breakout. Whereas, you know, those setups that were later in the day, they don't necessarily require as much liquidity because it's a smaller move, if that makes sense, okay? So, you know, even if you are late, you don't have to be a hero and be the first one to catch the IBX. You could take it right here. And once again, the structure is beautiful. You can see that we have a support resistance flip on this resistance that we just made there. And that continues to confirm that the order flow is in our favor, that buyers are in control. And all we need to do is simply find a good entry point to join those buyers. And this is a great way to, once again, remove the guesswork from your trading, understand that this has statistical probability behind it, and the statistical probability has existed for a lot longer than anybody has been trading that is watching this video. I can guarantee that, okay? So this is a game-changing setup. The 80% value area rule, the initial balance extension, use those. Add those to your playbook. Those could even make up your entire playbook. Go back and watch these two videos, this video and the video that I posted a month ago about the 80% value rule, and boom, you're welcome. You now have a 70 to 80% statistical probability playbook that has data that has backed those setups for decades. You don't have to take my word for it. I'd suggest that you don't. I'd suggest that you go and you backtest it for yourself so you can truly gain the confidence that you need. Treat it with the respect that it truly deserves, because this is a very powerful setup, and a lot more traders would be profitable if they could just stick to simple playbook plays like the 80% value rule and the initial balance extension. So if you guys are like myself and you like to ask the question, why? Let me tell you. Auction theory tells us that the market is always seeking balance. The initial balance is the first attempt at that. When price breaks away from the IB with acceptance, or breaks away from balance with acceptance, it's telling us that a new type of auction is forming. The market goes between a balanced environment and an imbalanced environment. When we are breaking out of balance, this usually means that weaker hands are getting run over with a short squeeze or a long liquidation, and stronger hands or other time frame players are taking control. When you want to avoid this is you want to avoid an IB extension or trying to take an IBX if there is low volume or choppy price action. You also want to avoid Getting married to an IBX if you see a breakout with no confirmation. If you see a breakout above the initial balance and then you see a local top and then a lower high and price trickle back down into the IB, avoid. Or just at the very least, be cautious of what that means. If you want to be very safe, I would suggest avoiding initial balance breakouts or being cautious around them on days with major upcoming news events. I would also avoid counter trend initial balance extension setups unless you have major confluence. So I would be less inclined to take an initial balance extension to the downside if we are in an overall macro bullish market and we have been in an uptrend. That doesn't mean that you should avoid it at all costs, but that means that you should consider all of the factors, the context, and make sure that you have a lot of confluence factors present before you take an IBX in a situation like that. The initial balance extension is truly one of my highest confidence setups, and it aligns with market auction theory, psychology, and real market structure, as you can clearly see in this video that I have made today. If you're using market map, market profile, or even basic support and resistance levels, you can find this edge every single week. Try it out, backtest it, and let me know in the comments how it works for you. If you guys want to use the tools that I trade these setups with every single day, check out the TTN Pro Trader Bundle in the pinned comment and check out the tradingnetwork.io where you can sign up with one-on-one mentorship with me, where I will walk you through my exact strategies and even give you the exact playbook that I use every single day for the markets that I have been using and building for the last 5, 6, 7+ years that I have been a futures trader. If you guys enjoyed this content and if you find value in it, I would greatly appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, and click that bell notification to be notified every single time that I post videos here on the channel. And if you guys have any questions, comments, please drop them down below and I will help any way I possibly can. Thank you guys, as always, for taking the time to watch this content, and I will see you in the next video.